Hey, this is Jeremy with Grow Home Care Marketing. I'm so excited for our guest today, Nick Bonitatibus. I even practiced the name, and I think I don't. Did I mess it up, Nick?
No, you did good. You did good.
But our guest today is a well-known digital marketing expert in the home care space and also outside of the home care space. But he is on a mission as the founder of Digital Champions. Nick is dedicated to helping home care organizations implement social media and video marketing strategies to generate consistent leads and brand awareness, which is so important as a home care agency. Over the last 7+ years, Nick has helped thousands of companies all over the country improve their online presence with digital marketing techniques with the ever-changing digital world. Nick strives to deliver the newest and most up-to-date trends to his audience and clients. So, I mean, if that kind of piques your interest, you want to definitely hear what we're going to be talking about today. Today, we're going to be talking about podcast and why you as a home care agency should be doing a monthly podcast, if not more than say monthly. And Nick has his versions of terminology, whether it's called a podcast or something else. But today, that's what we're going to be covering, how that can actually grow your home care agency, build your referral network, or Steve Wise, a friend of mine, calls it your power partner network, right? But how that can actually help you get that done. So I'm going to hand this off to Nick. Why don't you just introduce yourself real quick, who you are, what you've been doing. I know I gave you a quick bio intro, but we'll hand this off to you real quick just to say hi.
Yeah. So as Jeremy said, my name is Nick Bonitatibus. And one thing I have to say is that I just love working with home care owners. You guys are so passionate about helping people. And it is truly an honor to be able to serve this community. And it's things like this that I love to do. I love to teach. I love to share. I love to talk about that. And Jeremy and I are going to cover some pretty awesome stuff today. So make sure you stick around.
Awesome. So, this episode of you being on here really stemmed from a post that I posted on my Facebook profile about, hey, if you're a home care agency, you need to be doing podcasts. And I think I got like 30 comments or, which is quite a lot in the home care space. I mean, I don't have like 5,000 friends just yet. We're working on, getting those numbers up there, but, a lot of interest on that, right? Specifically from the home care owners. And so it seemed like there was a lot of interest on this where they believed and also confirmed that, hey, yes, we agree, we should be doing a podcast. But really at the end of the day, what does a podcast mean, Nick? I know that you have a program where you teach people the ins and outs of this. And so I think it's important that people understand what a podcast is to begin with. So in your definition, what is a podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing about what a podcast can do and the intention behind it is twofold. The first one being is leveraging you as an industry expert. Often people in the home care space, they say that they're the expert. They say that they know all this stuff, that they're better than other agencies out there. But how are you actually proving that you are, in fact, an industry expert and a leader? And then the other aspect is through collaboration. As Jeremy touched on earlier, right? And, Steve the Hurricane Weiss, right? He talks a lot about power partners. We're probably going to reference him a few times today. But through that process, collaboration is the key to growing your home care business. And so with a podcast or another version of it, which we'll touch on today, is about bringing on other collaborators and then showcasing them as experts in the industry. And the reason why that becomes so impactful from a social and digital marketing strategy is now you're posting something about them and then they're sharing it. Now you're getting in front of their audience. It's expanding your reach, right? And so that's where that collaboration becomes really impactful when you can leverage these referral partners in a medium that helps both of you guys.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think at the end of the day, home care agencies are really used to, the old school way of things as far as like sending out salespeople to create face-to-face relationships. And now that we have LinkedIn, Facebook, and some of these technologies where we can connect with some of our potential power partners, right, that Steve with Home Care Evolution talks about, And I'm such a believer in building that out. Now we can reach those potential power partners, friend them on Facebook, friend them on LinkedIn, and invite them to something, an event, if you want to call it a podcast, if you want to call that, learning or training experience, whatever, right? Whatever you name it, right? And I know that you've got some others that we're going to, and so in today's episode, we're going to definitely break down how you actually do this step by step. And of course, at the end, if you want to connect with Nick to get all the in-depth training, because we're going to do a summary, basically the steps, but if you want more in-depth stuff, you can connect with Nick. But what I really want to touch on to come back around to the power partners is that we're so used to relying on other people, like salespeople, to move the needle in our companies, when really people want to hear our story. And a lot of the home care agency owners out there started a home care agency because they care about people and they have a unique story to share. But most of the time, they are not properly sharing that story, or even, like you said, their expertise. And so it's going unnoticed in the community, right? And one of the best ways, in my opinion, is to start something like a podcast. And again, I keep saying podcast, but it could be an interview show, or
what I'll call it is basically how I refer to it is a video series.
Video series. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we'll go off that since you're the guest here. So the video series where you're inviting these power partners, right? I think it's so important to start building that right now. If you're watching this and you're like, you know what, I don't have a lot of time, I'm just going to jump off, don't. This show could change your entire business. I'm telling you right now. It is so powerful, because think about it like this. If you have a salesperson going to a nursing home delivering cookies or whatnot, and they're trying to create those relationships, maybe take them out to eat, bring them out to dinner, whatever, right? Wine and dine them, so to speak. And there's all kinds of different methods with that, right? I know Steve has an excellent method for sales teams on how to do that. But if you're trying to do that and you're not doing a video series, a podcast, or whatever you want to call it, you're missing out on another huge capacity of revenue. And here's the reason why. Because let's say, for example, a geriatric doctor, for example. You could bring on a geriatric doctor and feature him as somebody who's an expert. Well, his expert opinion in the matter of healthcare with the elderly, and the trustworthiness that comes with him and his reputation in the community flows over to yours. So if you are starting out and you start inviting people, you start building your trust off of their trust. And that's a very powerful concept. Not only that, but think about it like this. If somebody comes to you, Nick, okay, let's talk about like human, right? If I came to you, Nick, and I just physically brought you cookies in a basket, and like, hey, I just wanted to connect with you. We have a home care agency. I wanted to bring you some cookies and just remind you again about how awesome we are. And that's all I did. That's not as powerful as something like this, in my opinion. And I want to hear your thoughts on this. If I came to you and say, hey, Nick, I'm hosting a podcast, and we're going to talk about why home care agencies need to have a podcast. And I know that you help home care agencies, right? But I want to get your expert opinion on the matter, so that way you can help them grow. Would that interest you? Because I want to showcase your expertise. What do you think? I feel like that really turns the signal to where I'm not chasing you. You're now chasing me. Like, yeah, I want to be on there, right?
So this is exactly what I teach, right? So I'll share a story. One of my clients, his name's Jonathan Marsh, works with home helpers. And so what he did, right? So he started a video series, and where he's showcasing himself as an industry expert. And then as part of that video series, what we do is we bring on guests as well. Although I teach not to bring on guests until you've established yourself first. So I have a whole, there's a whole process of creating certain video topics that you want to do first before you just start bringing on guests. Because at the end of the day, right, like there's a lot of topics around just home care in general that you need to answer, not just like go targeting these guest speakers yet. And so one of the things that Jonathan did, it was assisted living week, right? And during that time, so in the process that I teach, the goal is to bring on these guests and have them teach about very specific topics. So the reason why there's somewhat of a discussion here, right, between a podcast and a video series is that I don't like podcasts because a lot of times when people think of a podcast, it's like 20 to 30 minutes. You're talking about so many different topics and it bounces around from topic to topic. That doesn't help from an SEO perspective because they're not defined in one definitive search. And so what we do specifically in this example with Jonathan for Assisted Living Week, he wanted to showcase multiple of his assisted living referral sources and not just one. And so what I teach is actually just having one guest answer three different questions that are now three different videos versus just doing like one long interview. But what Jonathan did is because it was Assisted Living Week, he had each assisted living answer one question specifically different. And so the first person answered, hey, like, what's the difference between a memory care, assisted living, and then another question was, what are the levels of care, right? What are the different types of assisted? And so each person was answering a different question. So now you're able to target those same types of referral sources, but have them answer different questions so that you're not bringing on someone and they talk about the same thing. And so that goes into the YouTube search algorithm based on what people are searching, right? Hey, what's the difference between a nursing home and an assisted living? Or, anything that people are searching for is now very definitive based on the questions that they are answering. And so that's where this really becomes impactful. But what ended up happening is during this process with Jonathan, when he posted stuff online, he had someone see another referral partner shared all of the videos, all 5 videos, and then said to Jonathan, I want to be on your show too. And that's where the power comes in. People want to work with people who have influence, who have an audience. And so when you create this show, right, whatever you want to call it, video series, when you create this show, I think that's that's what we'll use, Jeremy. When you create this show,
this video audio show,
yeah, when you create this show, it now becomes this asset to use and leverage with potential referral partners to bring on, where they will come to you. And this isn't, I have another example from Paul at Right at Home, and he posted that he had his show. And he had all these people reaching out to him on LinkedIn. I want to be on the show. I want to be on the show, right? Because everyone wants to get in front of more people. They know that this, medium of video and or, podcasting is really impactful to getting in front of more people. And so the more that you think about who you're strategizing and who you're targeting, generally you want to lean towards people who are can refer you business, right? And that's a big aspect of that.
Right. And I would just reiterate on that. If you aren't aware, look, home care agency owners are not the most tech savvy in the world necessarily. I've met quite a few that are really bright and very educated with technology and stuff like that. But then I've met a lot that can barely turn on a computer, right? So for those people that are not tech savvy, can you just share just a real some tangible tips, right? Something that they could do if they want to do something like this?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things, and I will say for those that are less tech savvy, those are generally, I work with tech savvy and non-tech savvy, but what I do is that I actually take a lot of the burden off of the clients, and all they have to do is show up with me on a Zoom call 2 hours a month, and then we're able to create that content. And they don't have to do anything else except just show up on a call with me. But if you did want...
So to break that down,
and
I love promoting the people that come on here, okay? Because I believe that's why they're on here, because I believe in what they're doing. So to break that down, all they have to do is just show up to like a meeting, like a Google Meet or Zoom or something like that. And then you will kind of walk them through the steps to record the content, the video series, whatever we want to call it, for them. And then will you share that out to social media for them as well and get it edited, or how does your company help with that?
Yeah, so we will edit the content, and then we also, as a bonus, will manage your YouTube channel. But on the calls, we don't just record content. The difference is not only are we creating the content on the call, then my team editing the content, we'll actually talk about how you're distributing this content in a way that gets results.
So
And
maybe
that's
like strategic content creation, it sounds like.
it's very strategic. It is not, we're not just like, oh, let's talk about this. Like,
I love
no,
that.
everything that I do and every topic we create is so strategically designed to create a need for the services and to help handle objections. And there's a ton of different things. Just to share one quick example. One of the things that I love to talk about, right, is fall prevention. Everybody knows fall prevention, right? Falls is one of the top 10 leading causes of death. If you follow a lot of what Steve the Hurricane teaches, right, and having a specialty program, fall prevention is one of those big ones. He's going to love us
Right.
for talking so much about him. So with that process, right, when you're leaning into fall prevention, which is a huge need, right, you list all of the things. So what are the things, right? We have removing clutter, installing grab bars, like not wearing loose clothing, wearing shoes around the house or socks that have grip. Well, what's the last option? Hiring a home care agency. In order to prevent falls, a home care agency helps to prevent falls by having a caregiver in the home. And so by now you're leading with this education, teaching people on ways that they can prevent falls themselves. But then one of the options is to then get home care services. And so a lot of the content that we're creating is specifically and strategically designed to create a need for the services that you offer. Because we know, right, in home care, people wait to get home care. They're almost always getting it too
so
late.
Like a story for me, not to cut you off or anything, but just, I was running a digital marketing agency to help home care agencies for, I don't know, years. And I started taking care of my mom, and she had end-stage renal failure and congestive heart failure. Well, I was trying to run from meetings like this, run out the door, go help her, maybe help her to the bathroom, whatnot, different things. And it became a point where I didn't recognize mentally. So I'm doing exactly what you're talking about, right? And it became a point where I didn't realize in my mind yet, okay, I'm now not giving her the care that she needs because she's starting to need more care. I didn't notice when that happened, right? And so thankfully, as things progressed, I got the light bulb. Okay, I can't do this all. She needs more help. I need some help, and that's the right thing to do. I think also another reason why that happens, Nick, is that home care or people that actually need home care are hoping that they get better. At least that was the case with my mom. She was like, I don't need this. I'm going to get better, but that wasn't what was happening. So anyway, that's a little off topic. That's what you shouldn't do on a podcast, by the
way. No, but it's a great story, right? And that's just a little side note, right? Like, facts tell, stories sell. And you can utilize that in your video series to share stories and share examples of either how you've helped people or situations that have come up. And this was something I actually wanted to touch on. Speaking of stories, you mentioned this earlier. Your story, right? Your reason for getting into this business.
And I like to call that differentiating from competitors.
That's what I call it too, right? I say, everyone says, oh, we got the best care. We got the best caregivers. No, you don't. You do not have any of those things. The only true thing that makes you different from other organizations out there is you. And that is where we need to lean into it. And I see so often, I'm sure you can relate to this, Jeremy, because I know, the websites that you're building, you make sure you're like, hey, like, let's put your photo, let's put your bio, because you know how important it is. But I know people that don't want to put their face or their bio on their website. But here's the thing, right? Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. Have you ever heard of the book Start With Why? Phenomenal book.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and I have another saying I'll just throw in there. People don't buy from companies, they buy from people.
Yeah, I love that. And I have another, I love saying that home care is not B2B, business to business. It's not B2C, business to consumer. It's P2P, people to people, right? People don't want to buy from a logo. They want to buy from a real person. I mean, you're taking care of somebody in their home. You're taking care of their loved one.
Real quickly, how in the podcast setting or video series or video creation, and I keep saying podcast because that's what I know. I don't have that definition. I get it. But what can they do to differentiate themselves from some of the competitors?
Yeah. So first, to address the whole podcast, video series, you're not going to do a 20-minute podcast on telling your story.
Right.
It's very strategic in trying to keep it down to like 2 to 3 minutes, right? So this is a short video on your story, and it's literally as simple as just telling your story. And it can be done in a format, right? So you just introduce yourself and then share how you got into this business. Because I know you may be listening to this, and I talk to people all the time, and I ask them what their story is, and they tell me. And so often they share some incredible story about why they got into this business, good or bad. It's still an incredible story because it's empowering, it's passionate. There's this like heart behind every person's why. And so I ask, hey, do you share the story? And they're like, no. I'm like, this is your greatest asset that you can leverage and use in your marketing is your story. And it can be as simple as taking out your phone or jumping on Zoom and just recording the story. Now, I know that can be sometimes a little bit overwhelming, which is why there's businesses like mine that make this a little easier. And some people, and you may be thinking that the thought of getting on camera is horrifying to you, and that's why my goal is that I'm there helping you guide every step of the way, helping you through that process. But
Right.
you can do it without it. Like I actually jumped on a call with someone earlier this week, and they were like, I love your videos on YouTube, Nick. Like they're so great. And I even started making videos. I'm like, whoa, let me see them. And I was checking them out. I'm like, I love it. Like, again, I told her that she needs to share her why video. And then I looked, and then today I saw this morning that she posted
awesome.
her why video. So like, again, you don't need to sign up for services with me to make this and utilize these tools. But
I think the main thing I wanted to share with people is why they need to do it, right? And I think that the main, because there's going to be people, they're going to watch this. They might tune out after 30 seconds, okay? Or listen to this, because this is going to be out on, Spotify and a few, audio platforms. But they might tune in and be like, this is just another, talking about. I have seen in my company, and I've seen many other companies, there's enough data that proves that having guests that are authorities in the type of areas that can send you clients, right, can grow your business in very strategic ways. And not just grow your business, but in some cases, depending on where you are in your business, explode your business, okay? And that's why it's so important that they start doing something like this. It's not like, hey, let's have an episode and what should we talk about? Like that's how important setting something like this up, a video series, or these short form content videos that you like to produce. And whether people, again, this isn't, the whole thing's not here to promote Nick, okay? The reason why we're bringing that up is because, again, if you're not tech savvy, you don't get what we're talking about, but you do get, hey, it's important, and you want to get on board, but you don't get the tech part, or maybe you're too busy. Sure, Nick can help you with that. That's not what this podcast is about, selling that. What we're trying, our horse in the race, at least my horse in the race, is to say, hey, the method of sharing videos, sharing your story, partnering with people locally, inviting them on as guests, that can explode your business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to add some more of those like practical tasks of like how this is beneficial, if we're just talking, before we even get into the partner and the collaboration, let's just talk about your story for a second, right? Number one, you put it front and center on your website, right? It's the first thing people see, seeing your story, seeing you as a real person, right? Boom, that's one. Let's we put it as a QR code. You post it on flyers, brochures, everything. Now you're driving people to this video to see. You meet someone at a networking event and you're like, hey, it was great to meet you. I actually have a video where I share my story. I'd love for you to know more about me. Boom, you send it. Before you show up for a consultation that you're talking with somebody, hey, I'd like to share a little bit more about my story before I come into your home. Hey, here you go. That's just to name a few. There's more that I can go into, but those are just some examples. And so when you do it, right, because that's the difference, in my opinion, between, like, again, this podcast or creating videos that are done in a strategic fashion, is that we're building assets that you can leverage in your market. And so when we go into like that expertise of what people are wanting with, and I'll tie this to the partnership as well.
And I would just say that's just one thing. And
right.
The partnerships are a benefit. Using these as assets for sales with consumers is a benefit. The other benefit too is SEO, which, we work hand in hand. I mean, that's what we do is SEO. So if you're creating video content with Nick or using the methods that we're talking about, like Nick is describing on your own, that's fine too. If you're doing things like that and you're with an SEO company like Grow Home Care Marketing that's, marketing your home care agency out there on Google, video assets help keywords rank higher. And so there's many benefits here, not to cut you off, but I didn't want people to think, oh, that's the only, there's so many benefits here.
Oh yeah, SEO is one that I talk about all the time. Just to name a few examples of some of my clients, one of them on YouTube specifically has a video that's how to use a Hoyer lift. It's got over 200,000 views on it. Because again, that's what people are searching for. That's the difference, right, between a podcast and a video series. In most cases, that a podcast features multiple questions, whereas here we're streamlining in that one particular question. Another one that my one of my clients did, it's got over 10,000 views on YouTube, is just bathing with dementia. So that's such an important topic that people are searching for, that people want to know. And then when you do it the way that we teach, right? So I'm sure Jeremy will appreciate this. We take the video series as the video. We then use transcription, take the transcription, put it into ChatGPT, and turn it into a blog. And then we instruct all of our members, to whoever they're working with, right, Jeremy or whoever, putting the video on the blog post with the now transcription that was converted into a blog. So now you're getting all of that keyword research. You have the YouTube video, which also boosts your SEO because Google owns YouTube. And then now you've got this great article plus the video on there that you can now drive traffic to.
Yeah.
So if you want to do some and leverage like email marketing, and I know this may be getting a little bit more advanced, but part of this is like, how are we now creating the content, but then driving as much traffic to it as possible?
So and I think that comes back to the strategic content creation strategy, right. Being strategic about what we talk about, the guests that we have, etc.
Yeah, like I'll give another example that's one of the most popular topics that I tell people to create is, what are the questions to ask a home care agency? And the reason why this is such an impactful video to create or topic to create in your video series or your show is that, let's say you talk with a client over the phone, right? You're working with Jeremy. Jeremy's doing amazing SEO work. They come to your website. They book a call with you. You talk to them on the phone, but they're like, I love your website. It's amazing, but I wanna shop around. I want to look at some other companies. And you go, I totally understand, right? We actually have a video that goes over all of the questions that you should ask a home care agency. Would you like us to send it to you? They're going to, of course, say yes. Now you send them this video that goes over all the questions. You take them to your website that has the video and the transcription blog right there, so they can either watch the video or read it, right? Now they're going to go ask other home care companies your questions. Who are they going to be thinking about the whole time? They're going to be thinking about you the entire time. And this is, again, that strategy where the questions that you're telling them to ask, everything that you tell them to ask is designed to showcase you. So if you're like,
your story, your differentiators,
ask them, hey, you train your caregivers. So like, that you train your caregivers very extensively. So now you have that as a question, because now you can talk about how you do that. So again, that's like the strategy, but now it's this asset where you or your team can just like send people to this content consistently. Maybe
I got another one up on you, or just to add to that, that type of what you just described is super powerful when you couple that with automation. So for example, let's say a lead comes in, they're talking to them about the services, here's what sets us apart, et cetera, on the phone. Would you like to book a home care assessment? Well, not right yet. Not just yet. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, would it be okay that we send you this video? Cool. All right. So then with automation, you can trigger hot lead follow-up funnels, or whatever you want to call them, right? We call them hot lead follow-ups because, they're a hot lead. They called, they inquired, they didn't book a home care assessment. So they might be back out on Google looking for other home care agencies to call and find out about how much they charge and their differentiators, right? Well, while that's happening, most people are going to say, yes, sure, send the video over. But while that's happening, you're texting them, drip feeding them content that tells your story. So what you could do is you could take a video like what you're talking about, that can be texted, that can be emailed, and then parts or summaries or sections or sentences of that video could be written out, right, into text that, reinforce the video in your differentiators. Like, here's some, you can drip feed that over the course of 3 days. So 3 days, I think, is typically, if I remember correctly, the date or time, that you have to really close a lead up and wrap it up. And then it just drops off significantly after 3 days, right? But you can drip feed stuff like that or other videos. And I don't know if you've ever heard about this, Nick, but I like to tell people when people book a home care assessment, whether on the phone or even after, say, getting, these automation texts if they haven't booked, but when they book, right? Send them additional videos that pre-sell and also introduce you and your home care agency and your caregivers, why you're different before you ever get to the home. And that can be also delivered with like appointment reminders too, to reduce your no-shows. Vice versa, same thing with caregivers coming in for a job interview, right? So yeah. I think video, like what we're talking about, not necessarily a podcast. I wholeheartedly agree, right? But
it's a little easier, in my opinion, doing what I'm doing, a video series versus, a podcast. Sometimes that can be maybe a little overwhelming at first for people.
But the thing is this, for us to talk what I just talked about, there could be some home care agency owners, maybe a lot of them, where their eyes just glaze over. Automation, what did he just explain? It sounds great, but the thing is this, how do you eat an elephant? You know what I mean?
Yeah, one bite
we first have to have the video content, right?
Right. Yeah. And I love that you brought up the automation part, because that's something that, again, goes into these assets that we're building, and how can we now incorporate our video content into our drip sequences, right? Like, if you ever download a free document on my website or offer something up, more often than not, I'm driving to other videos on my YouTube channel that are my most popular videos. So not only am I getting more views on my most popular videos, but now I'm delivering value as a follow-up, instead of necessarily just like, hey, buy my stuff, hey, book an appointment. It's like, no, now you can mix in actual valuable resources that help add that. And to tie into your automation regarding caregiving, which, oh my gosh, if you guys aren't using automation in your caregiving, we're
going to have to do another podcast on automation.
I know. We're probably going long over time here, but it's so critical, because when you don't have automation in your recruitment process, you don't realize how much time you're wasting by not having automation. Your recruiter is spending an additional 20 hours a week that could be saved if you just implement automation, which then allows them to focus on higher productive tasks. Yeah. And so one of the, to tie back into the video series and kind of content that we're creating, the second video that I helped my clients create is what I call your recruitment video. And basically what we do is we take a combination or a compilation of video testimonials from your caregivers. And I have very specific questions through the interview process that actually leverage sales psychology. And I say sales because recruiting is selling, right? Into this video. And then that video that we create can then be used in your automation, which is going to help you to increase your no-show, right? Increase that people actually, book an interview. Increase that people actually show up. Yeah.
It's not necessarily decreasing no-shows. Because we see in our appointment bookings, right? We send out the appointment reminders with automation, all that kind of stuff. But having the ability to go and reschedule an appointment, right? And that happens a lot. We'll get notifications, from home care agencies. So we won't have somebody that just doesn't show up to an appointment. Instead, they reschedule it, right? And so it moves it on my calendar. We're still talking, we're still meeting, right? That meeting was important to them and us, and it's still happening. It's just now it's happening on a date that's a little bit more convenient because they had to step out to go take care of a client or whatnot, right? Well, same thing for caregivers. Believe it or not, they probably do have a car that's not running that great, So, sorry, my car's not working today, right? So instead of them just not showing up, that gives them the ability to reschedule, right? And if you have a hiring day, and I know this is kind of off topic, but
Well,
anyway,
you're going
we'll do
into
another
just
one
like,
for
yeah,
automation.
you're going into utilizing technology. And I think that's
Yeah.
the big thing. I mean, if we were to sum up everything that we're talking here, is that there are incredible assets like video marketing, automation, SEO, that you are missing out on not leveraging these tools. And if you don't start to adapt and change, you will fall behind and lose, because the best companies, the home care agencies that are thriving, are the ones that adapt and grow with what's in the marketplace. And so if you don't, again, you're
Yeah.
missing out. You're going to fall behind, because your competitors, guess what? They're going to start using automation. They're going to start using video
And AI.
and AI. Yeah. And now you don't have these tools, and you're going to be like, oh, well, but I didn't know. I don't know how. It's like this excuse, staying the same. This is just like an entrepreneurial tip, that if you want to grow your business, you need to be constantly adapting and changing and not getting stuck in your old ways. Because whether you've been in business for 10 years or one, you need to grow with the times. You need to change. You need to adapt.
And one of those things, I'll just touch on one more time, just to reiterate. Again, should you do the boots on the ground sales process? Sure. If you have that capacity and resource, monetary resource to do that, absolutely. But a lot of people are just getting started, or even people that are, 2-3 million plus annual revenue a year, home care agencies. You don't want to sleep on putting together a video series, putting together video content like Nick is talking about. So super, super important. And I think we've kind of beat the dead horse, so to speak, on, hey, you need to do this, and then the whys and stuff like that. So Nick, I know that we've already talked about how people can get in touch with you and that you offer this service. Speak a little bit about, I know that you have a special offer, and then I know that you're also going to be speaking at an event with me. We'll both be speaking at Steve's event, Home Care Evolution, coming up in November. I believe it's November, 14th through the 15th?
I think it's 15th through the 17th. But
Okay,
I could be wrong on that too. It's all right. I mean, you were one day off. You were pretty close, and I think that's correct. I'm not 100% on the date, but so yeah, I have a new course that I just launched, and it's completely free. And you can get access to that. You can either go to my website at thedigitalchamps.com, or you can go to homecarebrandmastery.com, and
Can you repeat that one more time? On my end, the last website that you gave, it got it was like
no
blocked out
problem.
or something.
Yeah, so it is homecarebrandmastery.com. And so that will take you to the course. You can get access. Again, it's like, I think it's around two hours roughly of just training, diving like way deeper into some of the stuff that we talked about. So if you're like, hey, Nick, I want some more information on this, I go over everything. And then at the boot camp coming up in November, you can learn more about that at homecareevolution.com. But that's going to be an amazing event for those of you.
And I do want to touch on that too, because we'll both be speaking at that. If you go right now to buy a ticket, well, I say right now because we're recording this.
Depending when the date is.
Depends on when you watch this video, and right. But you can get an early bird ticket. So don't sleep on that either. We'll be talking about some of the cutting edge things in the space. He'll probably be talking about video and social media and how all that ties into home care agencies. We'll be talking about some AI and SEO and how Google's going to be changing how they do rank businesses. But Steve's going to go in on some like golden nuggets. And if you've never been to an event with Steve, you got to go. Okay. You just got to go. Check it out. And even if you haven't, let's say you've been in the past and you haven't been recently, come back. He's like laying golden nuggets right now. I'm listening to the content. I'm like, what? So some really good stuff that he's sharing. So make sure you check out Home Care Evolution. Just a little plug for him, homecareevolution.com. And don't forget to check out Nick. If you guys have questions, this video obviously is going to be posted out on social media. Comment underneath the video. Nick and me will both be watching the comments to answer any questions that you guys have. Feel free to message Nick, message us, Grow Home Care Marketing, or Jeremy Fuller on social media. We're here for you. I hope you got something out of today's podcast, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.